Can I start?
Hold on just a sec. Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, so my Torah portion was on Korah, and it came from number 16 to 1832, but it was so lengthy and it was so much that could be unpacked. So I decided, for the sake of time, to just do chapter 16. And so, on looking at the Hebrew lexicon definition of the word Korah, it meant icy, frost, cold, or to make bald, which is why I chose the picture to the left. The rebellion. Korah was a Levite that joined forces with the Reubenites, Dathan, On, and Aviram, along with 250 well-respected princes from the congregation of Israel, to orchestrate an uprising against Moshe and Aharon's leadership. Their argument was that the whole community is holy, so why have Moshe and Aharon placed themselves above everyone else? So once again, Moshe's leadership was being questioned. Korah obviously did not believe in Moshe's mission, and he did not believe that the Most High had placed him in his position of authority. He was questioning why Moshe had to be in charge of the community, and he did not like the idea of Aharon being high priest. His argument was that Moshe was taking too much upon himself when the whole community was set apart or holy. And this simply was not true. The whole community was not set apart to draw near to the Most High, and they certainly could not perform the priestly duties. And it was not Moshe that was taking too much upon himself, but the real question is why Korah was not happy with the duties that he had been given. Why was he also trying to get the priesthood or the position of high priest? He was already set apart as gatekeeper of the tabernacle. He was in charge of transporting the temple items, such as the Ark of the Covenant. So why was that not enough for him? And he was not just attempting to have a power struggle with Moshe and Aharon, but he was actually acting in direct opposition to Yah, because it was he that had chosen Moshe. And he made it very clear that he speaks to him and only him, mouth to mouth. So that made me think about today's times, that we cannot all be in positions of authority or leadership. We cannot all be teachers. There has to be some students. But I do firmly believe that we all have a role to play, and that each of our roles are equally as important. And I believe that if we all would just operate within the confines of the gifts and the talents that we have been blessed with, and that we should support our brothers and sisters in whatever role that they have been given, keeping in mind that our common goal is being servants of the Most High collectively. The rebellion. So the reaction, when Moshe heard this, he fell upon his face. And this really resonated with me also. He did not react in anger. And truth be told, he was being accused of self-appointing himself as ruler over the people, when in fact, this was a job that Moshe did not even want in the first place. Yet and still, he did not react with anger. He did not even immediately speak, but he humbled himself and he prostrated himself, making himself equal with the dust of the earth as he looked to the Most High for a response. So the Most High instructed Moshe to tell them to take censers and light them with fire and meet him tomorrow and come before the Most High, and whomever the Most High decides is holy, he will cause that man to draw near to him. So he was basically telling them, we can settle this once and for all, but it's going to cost you with your life if you're wrong. And Korah assembled all the congregation against them unto the door of the tent of meeting. And the glory of the Most High appeared unto all the congregation. And the Most High spoke unto Moshe and unto Aharon, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell upon their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be wroth with all the congregation?
So Moshe and Aharon fell on their faces and said, O power, the supreme power of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will thou be wroth with all the congregation? So looking at the definition for ruach, it did not just mean breath or air or spirit, but it was actually also defined as the character, the moral character, the emotions, the mind, the seat of intelligence. So when it says that the Most High blew into the Adam the breath of life, he did not just blow into him air, but he blew into him the essence of life. He blew into him his character, his intellect. So when it says that we're made in his image, I don't believe that we're physically made in his image, because nothing is made in his image, but we share in his emotions. We share in his ability to feel. He gave us a piece of his character. He blew into us his moral compass. So this changed my whole definition of what life is. So being in the medical field, although someone has a heartbeat, if they have no brain activity, we pull the plug. So this means that life is more than just the ability to breathe in and out, but it's the ability to feel emotions, to think, and to reason. So when they cried out that you are the power of the spirits, they were saying that you know the thoughts and the character of each person, so judge righteously. Will you destroy all for the sins of one?
Came to pass, as he made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground
Conjure, we can't hear you. Hopefully she'll come
and
back.
all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And fire came from the Most High and devoured the 250 men that offered the incense.
So since incense is only to be burnt at the tabernacle by the Most High's anointed priests, all 250 men were killed, making it clear who his chosen priest was, making it clear that he had chosen Moshe. He was establishing order, and he was using them as another example that he has no problem ridding the community of the rebels. And that was the end of my presentation.
Oh, wow. Go ahead. Unmute.
Hallelujah.
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 Most high.
Give God
Hallelujah.
praise. Praise the mighty one of Yahweh. Hallelujah. That was what you would call authentic, and it was profound, and it was a wonderful presentation, Akoti. What, like I said, you have this ability, and I must say this, that you have the ability to get your point over very effectively. What stood out to me that I really enjoyed about it, among so many other things that I enjoyed about it, was the fact that you had mentioned the way that what life is, you know, and it's about our character and how Yah has breathed into us his character. And anyone who goes contrary to this, and what, especially being in his presence, are going to have a problem. They're in opposition. When our character doesn't line up, meaning if when our life and our behavior doesn't line up to that which is pleasing to him, it's in complete opposition, and Yah then would then have to take a course of action against us. So that kind of resonated with me. And also too, I like the fact that you talked about the support and the benefit of one another. And this is the reason why our roles and our duties and our responsibilities is every effort and every attempt for us to do anything. It should not be for ourselves, but it should be for the community. So I want to thank you personally for your contribution that you made today to the House of Israel and to this family of our great and mighty King. Hallelujah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can go ahead, Azania.
That was wonderful, sister. I love your presentations. I love your teachings on TikTok because, as Akika said, they're so succinct and powerful. It's like a little jab of Torah and the testimony that you come along and you give. And what stuck out so that was really profound for me. It's the way you talked about the rebellion, and you just tied it into the morality of us accepting that each of us have assigned duties for the Most High, and how it befits us as a nation to support one another in those duties, because the Most High has given us skills for that. Even when it came down to making the tent of the meeting and the various holy things. I mean, he imbued various people with certain gifts and talents to have that happen. And our ancestors didn't start arguing over that then. So it's just like very necessary for us to wipe away any covetousness or any jealousy that we have in our hearts against our brother and sister, and support them in their endeavors to serve the Most High. And it was just a beautiful, articulate, and well thought out presentation. And Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward with the teaching. And I was I was fortunate enough to come up with a presentation with some different slides. And so today I want to let you know that, if I make some mistakes, please forgive me. The platform, I've been working with it all week long, but I might go a little bit longer than what I anticipated today, but I think it's some good, helpful information in here for all of us to learn from. So first and foremost, I want to title this in particular teaching called to Authenticate. Okay. I believe to be authentic is huge in terms of, what it is that we need to do. And I'm going to present this in a way, you're going to see a lot of Hebrew words. I want you to have a pen and paper handy, because I believe the language is very important for us to understand. We have to start talking in the language that belongs to us, right? And we don't want to miss out on the understanding that goes along with that. English is a bastardized language. That's what it is, okay? But with the Hebrew, you and I have to become more familiar with it, and we have to take our time. Could you put your, why someone's getting some feedback? Let me see. Yeah. We want to make sure that we familiarize ourselves with the language, okay? So what is authentication, right? Authentication is a process of determining whether someone or something is in fact who or what it says it is. This is what I found in the Torah portion this week, is that we have to find out if Yah meant what he said, right? Obviously, the people that were in the wilderness thought that, he wasn't who he said he was. They didn't think that Moshe was who he said he was or what he was to them. And also they had questions about who is supposed to be in charge, and so this is what the cause of this rebellion is because now we're dealing with this process of authentication. And Yah wants to authenticate to us who he is. He wants to authenticate to us who we are. He wants to make sure that we understand who it is that he has chosen. So this word right here that I have called Rishon, right here at the bottom, left-hand side of the screen, that right there is called to be first. That's what Rishon is. Like the first day of the week is Yom Rishon, right? Today is Yom Shavi'i, which is Yom Shabbat. So Rishon is the first thing. So with this first thing we want to take a look at is some definitions and defining who we're dealing with. Every last one of these words up here, like Yahweh, Kadra, Bakar, Kum, Ra'ah, Rum, Edeh, or Edah, are all Hebrew words, right? But they all have significance and they all have meaning. And I've used these words and these definitions to give us the character of who we're dealing with, all right? And I'll get a little bit more into that in just a moment. But also, too, I want you to be aware that in the Hebrew language, the words that you see up here, some of them are verbs, but they also can be nouns. That's how the Hebrew language works. Nouns can be verbs and verbs can be nouns. It could be the same word. But what it tells us is that the actual language itself is a very active language. It's a living language. And so when we talk about, I think you had mentioned, what Yahweh is to us. Yahweh is actively, he's alive and he's well in our lives. And if we can understand that everything that we do is based upon what he's given us and the character that he's given us, then it should kind of push us to understand how we should live, right? So with that being said, where does this name come from? Yahweh, right? Well, this was the name that Yahweh introduced till the children of Israel. This is found in the book of Shemot, which is Exodus chapter number 3, verse 15. And Elohim said further to Moshe, he said this, say this to the people of Israel, Yod He Wahe, the Elohim of your fathers, the power of Abraham, Yitzhak, the power of Yaakov, the power of the power of Yitzhak, the power of Yaakov has sent me to you. This is my name. This is my name. This is how I am to be remembered generation after generation. So in the process of determining who what something is or what something is or who someone is, we have to authenticate, right? Because Yahweh wants us to know who it is that, we're dealing with. Often people that call the God of the New Testament him. And we haven't authenticated. We haven't put any processes in place. We haven't examined anything. And Yah is saying that's not the way to do things, okay? Who is Yah? Yah is the king of the universe. He's the self-existing one. He's created all things. Everything that's living, he's in charge of. Every movement of the ruach, of the wind, everything of the breath, everything of the stones, every insect, every element, every particle, every atom, every protein, every bacteria, Yah has created. He is the set apart one. And due to him being set apart, in our Torah portion, we learned that Yahweh says, I'm going to call a certain individual to be the set apart one who's going to be representative of who I am. Okay. He's the glorious one. He's the infinite one. And I say that Yahweh is Shemo, and Shemo there means that is his name. Shame, right here. When I speak of it, you may say, well, where's that? It's right here. The shame right here in Hebrew means name. Okay, this O right here means his. So it's his name. But according to what shame means, it means the character. That's what we're always going to be dealing with. We're always going to be dealing with character. In our Torah portion, we're going to look at some different characters, and we're going to bring that out in just a second. But his name is Yahweh. And he doesn't want us to lose sight of that. And there's a lot that goes inside of that and what goes along with his name, his character. Also, that's part of his character is that Yah has decided He's authenticated. There's an individual that he is called. And in the book of Isaiah, chapter number 49, he says, coastlands, listen to me. Okay. Listen, you peoples far away. Yahweh called me. Yahweh called me. Who's me? We'll find out. From what? From the womb before I was born. Oops, excuse me. He had spoken my name. He has made my mouth like a sharp sword while hiding me in the shadow of his hand. He has made me like a sharpened arrow while concealing me in his quiver. He said to me, you are my servant. And that me is Yisrael. That me is everybody that's on Zoom right now. That me is the people of Israel that's been scattered across the four corners of the earth. That me are the people who are descended from Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, whom through I will show my glory. Yah's intention is for Yisrael to be his servant, and he will show his glory through us. And this is why it's important for us to have a certain type of character, as a Koti had brought out. When we talk about Yahweh calling someone, this was a question that was brought, and it was the argument of the Korach and that group, along with everyone else. It just wasn't them. They were the representatives that they chose. Kavra means to call, to proclaim, to read out. And in an agricultural sense, they get this idea of calling from these two letters right here, this Kof and this Resh. The Kof means to gather, okay, like the light in the sun, and the Resh here has to do with the head of what? Of a man. So at the end of the day, the men would be called at the end of the cool of the day, after the sun has gone down, after all the activity has ceased, at the end of the day in a rev, all the men would get together and they would gather themselves and they would talk about those things that were going on inside of the community. Okay. But again, where does this word first come? Where's the first time we've ever heard about it? Where's the first time that it's mentioned? One of the things I want to teach you about the Hebrew language and about our culture is that anytime you really want to find out what a word means, you have to go to its origin in order for you to, the first time it's ever mentioned, so you can find out what does it really mean. Okay. Well, the first time that it's mentioned, in those of you who took the class, it says Elohim Kala, the light day, and the darkness he called Kadra night. And so there was evening and there was morning one day. Yahweh has used this word Kadra to proclaim and to call out to the light, and changes its name from Or, because that's what light is, to Yom. So even though the name is changed, okay, the function still remains the same. See, there's a lot of times when Yah has decided to call, right? So some examples are Avram. His name became what? Somebody tell me. Abraham. His wife's name was Sarai. What her name become? Sarah, right? You got Yaakov. His name got changed to what? Yisrael. There's a lot of times when Yah is calling individuals, he'll change someone's name. He called Moshe, right? He didn't change his name, but also his name means to be gentle. His name means to be silk. His name means to be called out. So the function is still there. So Yah's letting us know that, listen, when I call you, right, and I'm calling you to me, right, you're going to either do one or two things. Either you're going to be what I've asked you to be, or you're going to go contrary to what I'm telling you. In this Torah portion, we found out that Moshe was, trying to get the people to be convinced that, hey, listen, I'm the one that Yahweh chose. I'm the one that Yahweh has sent, and Yah's going to give you a sign to let you know that I'm the one. And as Akoti brought out, Yah had called him a long time ago. He didn't want the job. He did not want the job. And here's a text that tells us when Yahweh saw that he had gone over to see, this is talking about the burning bush, Yahweh called to him, he called to him from the middle of the bush. He said, Moshe, Moshe, and he said, here I am. Here I am. So this is the reason why, if you notice, Yahweh always talks about why Yomer Yahweh to El Moshe. Yah's always talking to Moshe. He's always talking to him. He's always talking to Aharon. He's always talking to them. So the children of Israel were not content. They wanted to take over the leadership because they don't believe that Yah called him. They think that he called himself. And that's not true. Aharon. I used the word right there, Bakar. What does Bakar mean? In the Hebrew, Bakar means to be chosen. It's the first choice. It is like the first fruits, the first fruit of the womb, the first fruit of the ground, the first fruit of everything. Yah has made a choice. Yah has chosen this family. He's chosen out of all the families of Israel, he's chosen Aharon's family. That's the one that he Bakar. It was a question in verse number 5 where they asked, Moshe had said, hey, today you're going to find out. You're going to know who Yahweh has chosen to be the Holy One. But when did he call Aaron? Did he call Aaron back when they were in the wilderness? Where did he call him? When did he call Aaron? He called Aharon when Aharon was in Mizraim, when he went out to go meet his brother. Listen what it says. But he replied, please, master, this is Moshe talking to Yah, send someone else. Anyone you want. And at this, Yahweh's anger blazed up against Moshe, and he said, don't you have a brother, Aharon the Lewi? I know that he's a good speaker. In fact, here he is now, coming out to meet you. And he'll be happy to see you. You will speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and his, teaching you both of them, what to do. Thus, he will be your spokesman to the people. And in effect, for you, he will be a mouth, and for him, you will be like Elohim. This is the foundation of this relationship that Yah was establishing with the children of Israel. Something that they don't want, something that they were unaware of. They just thought these two guys that came in and said, hey, let's take them out of, let's get an idea together and take them out of Mizraim. And that's not true. So those are the ones that Yahweh has called. Those are the ones that Yahweh has chosen. Aaron's choice was back when the children of Israel were in slavery, okay? Well, what other character we have? I have this word kum, right over here to your right-hand side. You guys heard that word kumbaya? Kum. That means to rise, okay? And of course, there's always a positive and a negative. There's always an opportunity for something to be good or something to be bad about kuming, because you notice that sometimes it said kumbaya, that means a positive. Rise up, Yahweh, and defeat your enemies, okay? As I said to one of the brothers before we get into class, since I'm going to kum, I'm going to rise something up, I'm going to make something come up. I want everyone to be aware that I'm not trying to put anyone down in this presentation. When you see certain things or hear certain things, I don't want you to take it personal. I don't want anybody's feelings to get hurt, like we're trying to, embarrass anybody or anything. But these are things that have to be brought out, because the individual that raised himself up against the Most High, okay, was from that family of Korach. He's the one who stood up against. He just didn't stand up to be used by Yah. He stood up and he raised up against Yahweh. Also, it means to establish a decree. He wanted his words to stand versus against what Yahweh had said. That's what he did. Okay. So kum means to rise and to stand up. And that's exactly what Korach has done. He stood up and he came to the children of Israel, or he came to Aharon on behalf of the children of Israel. And like I told you last week, he was sent, okay, by Dathan and Aviram. As it was brought out in our earlier presentation, it means baldness. It means to be shiny. And thank you, Chandra, for showing the frostiness and the coldness that goes around this guy's head, to be frosty, But it also means the baldness here has this idea about being really bold. Korach's baldness was because he shaved his head. It wasn't like he lost his hair. He shaved his head. Okay. And so this was something that he was doing. Of course, he was related to this family, Lewi. His great grandfather was Lewi. That was his great grandfather. And then his grandfather was Kohath, which was the family that Yah has chosen to do the service inside of the tabernacle. And Yitzhar is his dad, which is Moshe's what? Uncle. This is Moshe's uncle. So that's why this was this inner family fight that was going on. Okay. Where does this baldness come from? What is it? Let me show it to you. Why did he shave his head? Why did he purposely shave his head all the time? Well, shaving your head comes from the idea of, I would think, a culture. Okay, it's a culture. He shaved his head because that was what the Egyptians did. This is who this guy was. Okay, and I'm going to give you a little background on him. Well, one of the things that you need to understand about shaving your head is this. One of the first things the slave traders did to the people they captured was shave off their hair. The reason why they did that is because they knew that it had a spiritual and a cultural importance to the people. In Africa, this is what it was. When you had your hair, it meant something. It had something to do with your culture. So they take off your hair to get rid of your culture, to get rid of your identity. And it's it's like a dehumanizing act. This is the way for them to dehumanize us. It's like taking a lion and shaving off its mane, right? To demasculate it, right? And to cut someone's hair off is to say, listen, you're not going to be yourself anymore. We're going to strip you off. And it's a sign of slavery. And so what they're doing is they're separating and stripping off any connection that a person has to their culture. That's why your hair is very, very important. Okay. So when Korach was doing this, he shaved off his hair all the time. It wasn't like it said he shaved his head. We mentioned that, shaving your head was something that you did when you touched the dead. You had to go through purification. Shaving your hair after you let your hair grow when you're an Nazarite, you'd have to shave off all your hair, throw it in the fire, and then let your hair grow back again. The priests were prohibited from shaving their heads. So automatically, he should have known that he wasn't qualified. But what he did is he was bringing over the culture to which he came from. Okay. There's a culture that's going on within us right now. This is something that's rising up among us. Okay. That's a problem. Here it is. Within the culture that you and I live in, we have celebrities, we have political people, we have movie stars, we have athletes. These are the so-called leaders. These are the people that everyone looks to. And there's many more. I could have filled the whole page up with it. Okay. But they're the ones who are projecting this. They call him the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. He started this. He made it very, very popular. Very, very popular. And every last one of them, okay, and you know who they are. This is all a result of taking away somebody's heritage and culture. All of them don't believe this, but they're all slaves. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can look like us, be like us, and then you can be rich and still be a slave, and you'll be accepted. But you guys got to understand, all of these individuals that I have on here have to follow the rules. They have to follow the rules of their oppressors. And their job is to make you and I feel good about being a slave. This is what it is. Okay? This is what it is. This is the culture that's part of Egypt. This is what it is. You name one person that you see right here that have came out and said that they're following Yahweh and they're keeping the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. Any of these individuals? What leaders do we have in our community, right, that are pushing what Yahweh said? Not one of them. But this is what our people look to. And every last one of them are Israel. So we have more than one Korach. We got more than one Korach. We have a whole bunch of Korachs around us, okay? Because they believe that this is something that makes us attractive. It gives us a sense of boldness and confidence. You see, this is what it's about. It's a fashion statement. So literally what we're saying is that if you're a bald person, it makes you attractive. If you're bald, you can end up looking like them and it wouldn't be no big deal. They're accepted. They're completely accepted. There's nothing wrong with them. And you can be too. You can be broke. You don't have to have the money, but if you look like them, and if you act like them, and if you listen to their music and you watch their movies and you support what they say, so they're the ones that they're being supportive to our community. These are the individuals that are raising up against our Creator. Everything you see right here is a picture of rebellion. You understand? I know it's uncomfortable, but this is what it is. Often we don't want to shave our head, especially as men, because we don't want to look like that. We think if we shave if we don't cut all of our hair off, we'll look like this. And that's not true. As I stated, what we need to do is you could cut the sides of your hair off, right? Like, for example, you can trim it down. If your hair is balding in one spot, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. Yah knows that you're going to go bald. He mentions that in Zazarat. He says, if your hair is just naturally bald right there, that's what it is. But you don't cut all your hair off. You don't cut all your hair off. You don't do it. It's just a spot. Okay. So that's against what Yah has asked us to do, not just for the priest, but just as a people. We're not allowed to do those types of things. Okay. One of the things that we understand too is that, especially for our women in particular, Yah had mentioned a prophecy that talks about what's going to happen to the women of Zion, right? And so being bald as well can be, considered a curse depending on who you are. Moreover, Yahweh says, because Zion's women are so proud, they're walking with their heads in the air, throwing seductive glances and moving with mincing steps and jingling their anklets. The master, who is Yahweh, will strike the crown of the heads of Zion's women with swords. Yahweh will expose their private parts, and on the day, the master will take away their finery, their anklets, their medallions, their crescents, their pendants, their bracelets, their veils, their headbands, their armlets, their sashes, perfume bottles, amulets, rings, nose jewels, their fine dresses, wraps, shawls, handbags, gauze, scarves, fine linen clothes, turbans, capes. Then there will be, instead of perfume, a stench, and instead of a belt, a rope, and instead of a well-set hair, a shaved scalp. Talking about they're going to go into their captivity. Instead of rich robe, a sackcloth skirt, and a slave brand instead of beauty. This is what's going to happen, and this is what's happened to our women. And because there was a question about what this idea of alopecia. This in particular woman right here claimed that she has alopecia. But if you look at her hair, I want you to look very carefully. She has hair. Alopecia is complete baldness, right? But she's taking that on. Why is there alopecia? Because that's a curse for a woman. That's a curse for a woman to lose her hair. You've been cursed, you see? And that's part of the culture. But she's turned around and she's made into a fashion statement. And now they got this whole thing about everybody with alopecia, because I'm a skin therapist by trade. Alopecia is where the actual hair follicles no longer are able to produce hair, right? So she's got this campaign out of people with alopecia, and they're celebrating these people. Well, if they would read Isaiah, they would find out that they're cursed. You see? So to rise up against Yahweh is a person who is in total opposition to what Yahweh says. And that's the culture that you and I live in. I want to bring you to our next word, ra'ah. Ra'ah means to see. Why did I use this word, ra'ah? Because it has to do with the Dathan, which is a descendant of the tribe of Reuven. Okay? What is a descendant? A descendant is a person, a plant, or an animal that is descended from a particular ancestor. Whether we want to accept this or not, just like a plant or an animal, they have descendants as well. And whatever came out from them is exactly, it has the same type of traits and the same type of character that they have. They have the same type of body. They operate, function very much alike. So the danger in this is like, you got to really understand who you come from. Reuven was a different type of person. Okay. This is who these guys come from. Well, what does his name mean? Reuven means what? To see. Leah gave a son whom she had named Reuven. Reuven means to see a son. The first part of his name is Re, and that's where you get the root for Reah, right here. Uvain, a son. This is the Bain right here. They got a V, but it's really a B in Hebrew, okay, a bet. To see a son. For she said it's because Yahweh has seen how humiliated I have been, but now my husband will love me, because she wasn't loved. So this is the first one she had. So when we look at his name, it means to see. So Yahweh is trying to get us to see something, okay? This is the reason why he's mentioning his name, Reuven, because I want you to see something, okay? I want you to see what's going on. I want you to see what happens to someone who rooms. Room, by definition, means to rise. I want you to see what's going to happen to someone who rises, who gets lifted up. I want you to see what happens to someone who gets exalted. I want you to see what happens to someone who's full of pride. This is the reason why I've talked to you and spoke to you and told you who these individuals are. Dathan and Aviram. Aviram's name has the root in it, room, right here. His name is Aviram. Avi is my father. Av is father. My is this yod right here, which is represented by the letter I. Ram is really room. It's the same thing. And to room means to rise, to be lifted up. So I want to show you what happens to an individual that rises up against their father, okay? But I'm only going to show you this through this in particular descendant. Reuven means to see. Okay, so when you put their names together, I want you to see what happens to those who raises against my father. Now check this out. Reuven's name, as we found, means to see. But there's something more to that. Reuven's father tells us what Reuven's going to do. Yaakov, which is our father, who you and I ever descended from, has told us, he told us that you are my firstborn. You are the Bakar. That's what Reuven was. He was a Bakar. He was the strength of his father, right? He's the first fruits, which is the Bukarim, Bikurim, which is first fruits of my manhood. Your first son that you have is the strength of you. He says, though superior in vigor and power, you are unstable as water. An individual who decides that they're going to rise and they're going to rule over against and exalt themselves over the creator is unstable as water. And you should know that your superiority will end. Okay? So you lose the ability to be the Bakar, and you will no longer be chosen as the first fruits because your superiority has come to an end. Why? Because you climbed into your father's bed and you defiled it. And you climbed onto my concubine's couch. If you notice, he used the word climb. That means you rose up, meaning to rise. You rised up against me. That's what you did. And you climbed into your father's bed and you climbed into my concubine's couch. And because of this, you're going to lose your superiority and you're unstable. So when we look at the descendants who came from Reuven, Dathan and Aviram, and their attitude, which I told you that these particular individuals were the ones that were behind the scenes. It wasn't Korach only. Korach was the face of these guys right here. They sent him because it had to do with the priesthood. He came from the family of Kohath. So he was in charge of the vessels and he was in charge of those things. But the ones who wanted the authority and the rulership was this in particular family of Reuven, because back in Egypt, they were the ones who were in charge. They had their own government back then. They did. And also Levi was in Mizraim, and they were inside of Pharaoh's household. They worked within the household of Pharaoh. You can find that in the book of Samuel. Chapter number 2 or 3, I believe. You can research that, okay? So they were already in charge. So these in particular individuals, Dathan and Aviram, were descended from this man, and they wanted to take charge and be back again in first place, and they wanted to be the first fruits, and they're the ones who got the children of Israel to fall in line, because that's exactly what they did when they were back in Egypt. They don't want Yah to rule over them. They didn't want, and they knew that Moshe was going to do it. The Adah is called a congregation. Okay, that's what an Adah is. Okay, and what you find inside of the word Adah is 2 letters. This one and this one is an ayin, which represents the eye, and the dalit, right? The dalit, which represents the door. So you got the door of the eye, or the eye of the door. And that means what? The congregation is supposed to have their eye towards what? The door of the tabernacle. And that's also called a witness. Okay? And this is what the congregation assembly is. They are eyewitnesses to what? To what Yahweh has said and what Yahweh has done. Okay? The testimony that's inside of the Ark of the Covenant is called an aduth. The aduth has the ayin and the dalet in it. The same identical word that's used for the testimony has to do with being a witness, as you and I always go over. So these eyewitnesses now all of a sudden said, we're going to join up with these rebels. And now we're going to, because it wasn't just them. They convinced everyone else. We're from this family. We've been in business a long time. We've been in business for a long time back in Mizraim. So what they wanted to do was take Israel back. Okay. But if Israel would have went back to Egypt, then Israel is no longer prevailing, because Yahweh is the one who causes Israel to prevail. That's what our name means. It means he prevails with Elohim. And Elohim turns his head. That word he is right here for the Yod, he, Sar, which is turn, and El is the power. Okay, so Yah turns our head. You and I will never truly fully become Israel until you and I are prevailing with Elohim and over men. Okay, and also that can only happen when you and I allow Yah to turn our head in the direction that he wants to turn our head. He doesn't want us to turn back to Egypt. He never did. You understand? So within that, I put this word here for roots, shorashim. The shorashim means roots. Okay. When you are a descendant, you are literally a root. Okay. That's what you are. You're a root. There is a root of what they call the Rasha'im, of wickedness, wicked men. This is what a root is. This was what was amongst the children of Israel. There he said to the assembly, leave the tents of these wicked men. That's that word, Rasha'im. Don't touch anything that belongs to them, or you may be swept away in all their sins and what they have done. Not only these men, these wicked men, which is talking about Dathan, Aviram, Korach, the 250, okay? And all others that were with them, because it said Yah ended up destroying their allies. People have joined up with them because they wanted to go back. And anybody that decided that they wanted to go against and stand against Yahweh, okay, which is the kum against Yahweh. It means to rise against Yahweh. Okay? That's why these words are important, so we can fully understand what Yah is saying. Those 250 were called Nasi. They were called the leaders. That's what a Nasi is. They rebelled against Moshe. Siding with them were 250 men of Israel, leaders of the community, key members of the council, men of reputation. These in particular men, again, were men who came out of Egypt who still held their positions of leadership. And it wasn't just the leadership of the elders. These were other people who said, you know what? We're still going to maintain our power, irregardless of what Yah has said. We're going to do what we got to do. So that's where they put this, what you would call a coup together. Okay. What I found when reading about Yahweh in the Torah portion, it says that Yahweh then said, he said to Korach and his whole community, this is what Moshe said. He said, in the morning, Yahweh will show who are his and who is set apart. Okay. Set apart means they got holy, but I changed it. I put it what it's supposed to mean. It means set apart. A person, set apart person, he will allow to approach him. Okay. Yes, he will bring whoever he chooses, Bakar, near to him. Okay. So when I looked at this, I was like, okay, so you're going to show. And I looked at that word and I was like, okay, well, that's show. So what is show? And the show turned out to be yada. And I was like, okay, so the yada. All right. So what does yada mean? And I go, well, yada means to know. I know what that means. And I know what kadosh means. But I took it a little step further and I said, okay, well, which way was it said? You know, was it just a regular, let me show you, or was it, you know, what was it? Well, the way that it was described in the Torah and in language, it talked about a manner in which this in particular verb is conjugated to let us know that Yah's desire was for them to know his will. It wasn't just Yah was just going to show them who Aaron is and all that. It's not about that. Yah wanted to show what his will is, what his desire is. That's different than just showing somebody something. He wants us to know his desire and to know his will. And what I thought about was, well, what is Yah trying to show us? What has Yah been always trying? What is his desire? Because your desire is your will. What is Yah's desire for us? And I found that Yah's desire for us has been a lot of different things, you know, and he's been proving himself and he's been showing us and letting us know what it is. Well, we haven't been paying attention. Okay. Avraham was 99 years old when Yahweh appeared to him as Avram. And he said, I am El Shaddai. Walk in my presence and be pure hearted. That right there in Hebrew talks about he would cause himself to be pure hearted. Nothing magical. This is something he had to do himself. This is something that Yahweh wanted him to do, and he did it. He says, I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers. This is found in Genesis chapter number 17. Avram fell on his face, and the Almighty continued speaking with him. He says, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. That was Yah's desire. That's Yah's desire. He says, your name will no longer be Avraham. He called him, but exalted father, but I'm going to call you Avraham. I'm going to change your name because I have made you the father of many nations. I will cause you to be fruitful. That was his desire. I will make nations of you, and kings of you kings will descend from you. I'm establishing my covenant between me and you. That's Yahweh's desire, to authenticate and to confirm my covenant along with your descendants after you. That's you and I. Generation after generation as an everlasting covenant, never to be changed. It has to do with the land, to be your power for you and for your descendants after you. That's Yahweh's desire, is to be our Elohim, to establish a relationship with us. You see? In Deuteronomy chapter 4, Moshe says this, no, Yahweh hasn't taken you and brought you out of a smelting furnace out of Egypt to be it. No, meaning he was talking about something else. No, Yahweh has taken you out and brought you out of this smelting furnace out of Egypt to be a people of inheritance for him. That's Yahweh's desire. That's his will, for us to be a people that's brought to him. What else is his desire? Yah loved our ancestors, and he chose Bakar. He chose their descendants. He chose you and I after them. And he brought you out of Mizraim with his presence and great power in order to drive out ahead of you the nations greater and stronger than you, so that he could bring you in and give you their land as an inheritance, as it is the case this day. Know today, Yada today, and establish it in your heart when today. The Yahweh is power. That's Yahweh's desire. Yah's desire is to bring us out to prove and to authenticate that he is the power in the heavens and the power on the earth and the power below the sea. Yah is the power and there is no other. Yahweh wants us to know what his desire is for Yisrael. Yah's desire is that you and I would cling to him. His desire is to us making himself a people and for building him a name. That's his desire. Becoming a source of praise, that's his desire. To be an honor, to be heavy in esteem, that's Yahweh's desire. But they wouldn't listen. You can find that in Jeremiah chapter number 13. Yah's desire is for us to yada, for us to know. His desire is to build a relationship with us. His desire is to meet with us and spend time with us. Like a man who puts his hand to the garden. His purpose is to know us and for us to know him. Yada has the first letter, which has to do with the yod, which is the hand. When Yahweh talks about knowing us, he's saying, I put my hand on you. What hand do you think I used to take you out of Mizraim? You think I put my hand on you just to take you out so you could die in the desert like your ancestors told you? I put my hand on you so I can develop you and I can develop a relationship with you. So I can care for you. I can cultivate you. I can have you rise up. I can have you cool. But you got to be rise up in a certain way. I took you out from one soil and put you into another soil. I brought you somewhere where I can spend time with you to develop you, to authenticate who I am and prove to you who I say that I am. When I opened up the Red Sea for you, I authenticated when you crossed over the Red Sea. I authenticated when you walked across the Jordan River. I authenticated when you ate manna that fell from heaven and I fed you in the wilderness for 40 years. I authenticated. When I told you that I said I am who I am, and this is my name, and if you go against me, I'm going to send you somewhere. I authenticated. By the sheer essence of you knowing my name, I authenticate that I am who I say I am. But I have to bring you through a process so you would know that it's my hand that's been on you. I've set you apart. I've taken you and I've kept you to myself for my purposes, not for what you want to do. And even though you might be in a place where there's nothing and nobody, understand that I don't need anybody else around you in order to develop this relationship. I'm not trying to make everybody come along for the ride. I'm not. What I want to do is confirm. That's what I want to do. And the way that I do this confirmation is by setting up a structure for you to understand and know how I get down. There's a word that we use all the time when someone says something that's true, we confirm it and we say came. And it comes from these two letters, a kaf and a nun. The ancient Hebrew letters, the kaf and a nun, represent an action of standing. That's what confirmation, like let your word stand, let it be confirmed. This concrete definition of these two letters combined means a root. That's what it means. Let it stand, or what it's going to stand. Something has to stand, but it needs a root. The abstract meaning of this root would be to be sure. Once we see something standing, then we know, okay, that's sure. Okay, that we see it. It's standing up. Okay. But as I spoke to you and I told you that all Hebrew letters have a function, all of them. So when we talk about the kaf, we're talking about the palm of the hand. And when we talk about the letter nun, we're talking about a seed. Okay. Which means when you put those two letters together, the way that they function, it's opening or open the seed. Well, what do you mean open the seed? Once a seed is planted, the roots begin to form a base, okay, going down into the soil. So think about when Yah has taken us and he says, listen, I'm going to put you into a land. I'm taking you out of one land. And now you guys are the seed from Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. What I want to do is I want to take that seed that's been in this other land and I want it to come and I want to replant it. Well, we've been having a lot of problems because the people that I took out of this land, as I uprooted them from the land of Mizraim, now I got them in the desert and I'm talking to them. I'm trying to develop a relationship with them, but they hate me so much that I can't deal with them. But they do have seeds, which are their descendants. And so what I got to do is I got to go through a process and I have to authenticate to make sure that the ones that I'm going to put in the land are going to be the ones that are going to take root and that are going to rise up and they're going to be sure and they're going to be a base. Okay. But within that group of people, I have to choose a family. I decided that I want to choose a family, and the family that I chose is going to be the family of the Kohanim. You understand? So when I got this root and I got these seeds, not one seed, seeds, out of all the seeds that I have and out of all the plants that I have, I'm going to choose the plant that I want. I'm going to choose the plant in the tree that I'm interested in. I'm going to choose the family that I'm looking for. Because I know something about them that you don't know. I know where they come from. I know that Lewi is a people that their mother named him that because she wanted to be joined. I know that I can use them to join the children of Israel to me. I know I'm going to need this family. I know that this family is going to have to stand tall, and I know that they're going to have to be firm, and I know that the root system is going to have to be strong. These people have to prove themselves, and they did it when I said, who's with Yahweh? And they took the side of Yahweh, and they stood with me. When the rest of you turned your backs on me, they stood with me. I know that this family is the family that I want. We have a chance if I get this in particular family. And so this is what you get from the word Kohen. This is what their name comes from. This is the title of their position as a Kohen. Okay, because those two letters are right inside of that root, right here. Right there. The Kaf and the Nun. The Kaf and the Nun. Kohen. You understand? So they're the root system. They're the foundation of the family, my family, Yahweh's family, that I decided I wanted to use. And here it is. Conjure talked about understanding our roles and our responsibilities and to be supportive of that effort and that endeavor in which Yahweh would bring upon us. We need to understand that if the family is destroyed and the home is destroyed, the base is destroyed, the foundation of the house is destroyed. This is the reason why you and I know that you and I don't have priests with us today, is because there is no temple. Okay? There's a group out here that says they don't need a temple because they're the temple. They're saying they're the foundation for the family. That's what they're saying for all Israel. And you and I can independently think that all of a sudden now we're in charge. So I'll have my ideas, you have your ideas, and then guess what you got? You got a shaky base. You got a shaky foundation. The Kohanim are necessary for the family of Yahweh. But even so, you and I are a low-level group that we have to make sure that our homes are supportive. We have to make sure this. You and I cannot be talking about we want to have Kohen and we want to have a family of Yah, and then our own families and our own homes are tore up because nobody wants to set a foundation. They don't want to be in leadership. No one wants to accept who Yah Bakar, who Yah chose. We don't want to accept who Yahweh Kadra, who he called. We don't want to accept the leadership that Yah has put in place. We don't want to accept Yahweh's words. We have to understand that Yahweh chose and summoned Aharon through Moshe. He said, summon your brother. This is found in Exodus chapter number 28, verse number 1. Aaron and his sons to come from the midst of Yisrael, because that's the family that I want, so they can serve me as Kohanim. Nobody else. Nobody else. Anybody that are to put their hands to the work that Aharon and his sons are to carry out as the responsibilities of Kohanim, anyone who involves himself is to be put to death. That's the penalty for going against what I said, because I appointed Aharon and his sons. I took a charge and layered them out to say that this is the family that I want. I don't want anybody else. I don't want Korach and Issar. I don't want them. I don't want those individuals. There's a question about whether or not this covenant is true. So we're going to authenticate. We're going to go through a process to find out if the people who say they're Kohanim are Kohanim, and if they're not, they're not. Here's what Yahweh says. If you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that daytime and nighttime no longer come when they are supposed to. So he's talking about his covenants that are attached to the day and the night. Then my covenant with my servant David can also be broken, so that he will not have a descendant to reign from his throne, or not only David. We're talking about the Lawaim, who are Kohanim. With inside of the family of Levi, Yah has chosen a family to serve him. Okay, directly approach him and come close to him. He's not going to break this covenant, because if he did, then he would have to break the covenant that he has with the sun and the moon, with day and night. He'd have to break his covenant with Or that he called. He'd have to break it. He's not going to break it. But haven't you noticed? Have we not all noticed that people are saying that Yahweh has rejected the two families he chose? And so often we get confused, because when we think about two families, I want you to hear what I'm saying to you. They would say that these two families are the family of Lewi and the family of Yehuda. That's what people thought. The family, the tribe of Levi and the tribe of Yehuda. No, he is not talking about this. He said not the two tribes, but the two families that I've chosen. I've only chosen two families, and we need to make sure that we understand who Yahweh chose. This is what this Torah portion is about. He said, hence, they despise my people. Why? Because they no longer look at them as a nation. Why they don't look at them as a nation? Because the two families, you think that Yahweh has rejected these two families, because all of a sudden some Europeans decided to write what they call the New Testament and turned around and called Peter, James, John, Luke, Timothy, Paul, all of those people. You believe that that's now the new priesthood because they said that you and I are royal priesthood. There's only two families I chose. That family is Aharon and David. These two individuals, that's it. And out of those families, out of that, Aharon is his sons, his descendants. Out of David is his sons. That's it. And Israel has a problem with this. And the reason why they have a problem with this is because Okoti said that you and I think Azania said it, jealousy. We're jealous. The Torah portion tells us that these people wanted to take over the priesthood. The reason why they wanted to take over the priesthood, everyone, is simply because in the desert, in the wilderness, the only ones who were benefiting, I think it's two T's, benefiting from this in particular endeavor was Aharon and his sons. What do you mean? What were they getting? Well, there was offerings made. Who was getting the offerings? Aharon and his sons. The only thing that a Leviim was supposed to get were his efforts of the sanctuary was to get the tithes of the land. They were not in the land. That's why they were upset. You guys are taking too much on yourselves. Why? Because Aaron and his sons were eating what? They were eating the offerings. They were getting all the fat. They were getting anything they were supposed to get. They got all, when they did the census, they're the ones who collected all the money. They collected all the silver. They were in charge. But they had the ones with the garments of the Koshin with all the jewels in it. Everybody brought everything there. They're the ones walking around in linen. There's the ones walking around where nobody can touch them. They're the ones who's walking around with drinking whatever they had. They're the ones who were doing everything that God asked them to do. The Leviim were not going to get their so-called wages. They weren't going to get their sakar until they went into the land. They were not going to get their sakar. Why? Because they weren't in the land. The wages was connected to the land. The tithes were connected to the land. The 10% that they were supposed to get was from the land, and the 10% came from the produce that came out of the land. Now you just told me I got 40 years to spend in the wilderness. So now they're going to serve Yahweh for 40 years and they're not going to get any produce. So why not go back to Mitzrayim? Do you understand? That's why they were mad. That's why they were jealous. Because it appeared that the only people who were benefiting from this was Aharon and his sons at this time. And now we got a 40-year stint to do. So what are we going to get? They're not getting anything. So that's why he says, you know, you think you can blind these men out. we want to go back to you haven't taken us to a land of milk and honey and vineyards and so forth and so on. So let us go back. You took us out of a land with that, and now we're not going into this land. That's what Dathan and Aviram had said. But Yahweh says, I don't care what Dathan and Aviram says. This is what Yahweh says. If I have not established my covenant, my Berith, with the day, the Yom, and with Lila, and fixed the Kokim for the sky and the earth, the laws and decrees, then I will also reject the descendants of Yaakov, which he's talking about out of the families, these two families, and of my servant David from not Bakar, choosing from his descendants, not one man, not Jesus Christos. Yah is going to choose descendants from David's line. David had over 18 kids. And out of any of those 18 children, there will be a descendant to rule over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. For I will cause their captives to come back, and I will show them compassion, because that's who he is. That's a promise that Yah made to us. And you and I should both know that if you got the sky, which is the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth, that's why day and night exists for those things. There's no way that Yah's not getting rid of this promise, because he has established it. It's not changing for nobody. Here we are. In the future, authenticate. Let's authenticate what's being said. Let's prove what Yahweh has said. Yahweh has said that these Leviim, according to the book of Ezekiel chapter 44, you could go there and look it up, that they will not approach me and serve me in the office of Kohen, or approach any of the holy things or the especially holy Kodosh things, but they will bear their shame for their disgusting practices they've committed. Yet I will put them in charge of the house. Talking about when they get to the temple and all its maintenance and everything done in it. However, the Kohanim, who are Leviim, they're still from this tribe, okay, but Aaron's sons, the descendants of Zodok, which is from Aaron's line, who took care of my sanctuary when the people of Israel went astray from me. They're the ones who will approach me. This is in the future, and serve me. So you think the priesthood is done away with? You think the book of Hebrews in the New Testament says that you got another priesthood? I'm sorry, you're wrong. It is they who will attend me and offer me fat and blood. Sacrifices will continue, says the master of masters, Yahweh. They will enter my sanctuary and approach my table to minister to me and perform my service. Those are his services. They're not their services. They're his. And we're going to have to get used to that there will be a priesthood. Again, Yah tells Aharon, you and your sons will exercise your prerogatives and duties as Kohanim in regard to everything having to do with the altar and within the curtain. I entrust the service required of Kohanim to you, only to them. The unauthorized person who tries to perform it is to be put to death. Okay? So, what do we have? Let's authenticate. Who do we have? We got a group of people that are going around and establishing their own priesthood. That's what they're doing. They're going around and they're saying that they're Kohanim. They're going around and telling people that they bear the name of Kohen. They have no proof, no authentication, nothing. I think the idea for us to do is to respect the position of the Kohanim by letting it be what it is. Yah says that we don't have a priesthood. We don't have a base. We don't have a foundation. And I know that upsets us because we want to be close to Yah. Yah wants to be close with us. He does want to be close with us. But at this in particular time, we are in exile. And we are working our way back to Yahweh. But we're not going to cross the line and we're going to say we're going to try to take away the inheritance that belongs to this family. They didn't get any inheritance inside of the land. The only thing they had was Yahweh as their inheritance. And the Leviim were paid by that which came out of the land, which are the tithes, the 10%, which you and I have no way possibly to give anybody anything. Does Yah require for us to have a priesthood right now in exile? Absolutely not. Do Yah require for us to have leaders and chiefs? Yes, you can have a leader. Yes, you can have a chief. Yes, you can have a Nasi. Yes, you can have a rabbi. That means somebody who is increased with knowledge. Yes, you can have a Moreh. And of course, you can have an Akika like me. You can have a brother who would take the low road, not trying to put any shame on anyone else. You understand? There are elders, the Zakain, there are Zakains. We have Zakains. And let them follow what the Torah says. But if you and I are going to go around and try to establish something else that Yahweh didn't authorize, that he did not authenticate, then you and I are behaving in the manner in which we have Dathan and Aviram and Korach. We have to be careful. Yah's interested in sacrifice. Yah loves incense. He sure does. And as our Koti brought out, that it was used as a manner of service towards Yah. And Yah knew that these individuals that were coming against Moshe, they had a desire. They had some intention. They went and they got their censers. Where they get them from? I don't know. Where they have them? They had them from Mitzrayim. The censer that was made for the tabernacle was especially made by somebody who had the spirit, the Ruach of Yahweh, of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Betziel, that was made, that had been consecrated as holy and kadosh for Yahweh. The incense that was made was kadosh for Yahweh. Karav means to draw near and to be close and to be intimate. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be intimate with Yah. There's nothing wrong with wanting to draw near to him, but you and I first must understand that Yahweh is kadosh. And the individual that he chose to come close to him is Aharon and his sons. Why? Because Israel forfeited their right to do this. They forfeited it when they made that golden calf. Israel was supposed to approach Yah. Israel was supposed to make those offerings. But instead of Yah destroying Israel for the golden calf, he decided to choose a family among the sons of Israel to join them to Yahweh. And he chose the family of Levi, and that's what their name means. Every one of the sons of the Leviim were taken in lieu of the sons of Israel, of the firstborn. Every firstborn, every bakar of every family was supposed to be a representative for their family. And they failed Yahweh. And for some reason or another, our people, not just including us, but humanity as a whole, has forgot that Yahweh does not forget. If you and I do something, you and I are going to bear the consequences of it, as we had just read in the book of Ezekiel. The Leviim had went against me and they went astray from me. And he brought in these foreigners into my tabernacle. They're going to bear the consequences. But I tell you what, I'm not going to let them have this position of coming close to me. Not like that. But I'll let them come to do the service in the tabernacle. They still can be able to earn a living, because that's how they earn their living. That's what Yah says. I'm not going to have you work here for free. You're going to do it in the Sakar. The wages would be that which the land gives to the children of Israel. Matter of fact, when I tell the children of Israel to bring their tithes, I tell them to always remember you, Leviim, because you have no inheritance. So now you can see why these people started tripping, because it meant for them 40 more years without no produce, no wages or nothing. We're just doing service and we're getting nothing from it, except for take it down, put it up, take it down, put it up. Be careful or otherwise you'll die. You heard what the people said. We can't even come near. We're all going to die. You're right. You will die. But Yah has put a protective boundary around himself. And he chose the family of Lawiim as a whole to surround the tabernacle. He chose one family out of that family to go ahead and to be the ones who draw near into Karav towards him. And it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. That's what drawing near means to Yah. It's a sacrifice. So he told them to take their censers and do this. But what about the Koreth? The Ketoreth, excuse me. The Ketoreth, which can be found in the book of Exodus. I believe it's in chapter number 32, verse 34. Yahweh told Moshe to take an Aramaic plant and some substances, okay? And he gave this whole thing. You can read it right now, okay? Gum, spices, frankincense. Put it all together. You're going to make it pure. You're going to make it kadosh, okay? Then he says, I need you to take it. I need you to take some some fineness of this finely grinded powder of it. And I need you to put it in front of the tent of the testimony where I'll meet with you. Okay. And you to regard it as kadosh, kodashim. That's what it's going to be. Okay. You're not to make it for your own use. Okay. Any incense like it. You don't supposed to make any like it, just like you don't supposed to make any of the anointing oil. There's different compositions and ingredients that you need to keep and make it so it could be kadosh for Yahweh. This is the reason why those people got killed too. Several reasons. Because they had censers that was not set apart. Next, they made spices from the incense that they had. And guess what? It wasn't kadosh. Third, they used a fire that Yahweh was not familiar with. Yahweh's fire. That fire did not come from the altar. As you saw, the fire that came out of the altar and the incense that came out of the Mishkan that saved the people's lives, that he used Aharon to run in the midst of the dead and the living. And there's 14,700 people who died on top of the people that got killed from the 250, on top of Korach and the people who were allied with him, on top of Dathan and Aviram and their family and everything they owned. A lot of people died because they didn't want to authenticate. And they didn't want to confirm Yahweh's words. They didn't want his words to stand. But we want to be close to Yah. And Yahweh wants to be close to us. So how would one be able to come close to Yah? What do you guys see in this picture? I see smoke from incense. Within this incense, okay, it's called it's an olah. It goes up to Yah. It's called a ruach nakoach, a sweet smelling savor. And within it, you'll find a psalm of David. David said, Yahweh, I called to you. I've called. Come to me quickly. Listen to my plea when I call to you. Let my prayer be like incense. Let it be like a kotoreth. Be like. Set before you my uplifted hands like an evening sacrifice. You and I can learn from David. We can learn that prayer is like incense to Yahweh. That's what it's like. If you and I want to draw near to Yahweh, Yisrael, you and I can come to him in prayer. You and I can come to him and be intimate with him. To know Yahweh is to be intimate with him. To be intimate with him is to be embraced by Yahweh, to be brought into his bosom, to be drawn near like a child to the breast of a woman. When he says that Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov did not know me as Yahweh, they knew me as El Shaddai, the strong breast. How do they know me as a strong breast? Because I embraced your ancestors and they prayed and they trusted me. They did not hate me like their descendants. The reason why Moshe is always asking Yah to forgive Yisrael, and if you notice, it was 2 days in a row where he wanted to wipe them out. 2 days in a row, every day, just in that 2-day period, move out the way, separate yourselves, move out the way so I can wipe them out, if I sweep them away. But Yah remembered, as Okoti brought out. The life and the character and the emotion of the individuals that are there. Yah is compassionate. He does not want to destroy us. He's also said a lot of times, like, hey, why do you guys die, Israel? Why would you die? Just turn from your wickedness and live. I don't take any pleasure in the death of the wicked. I don't get some exuberation and some pleasure out of this. This doesn't make me happy to have to do that to my own people. So let's embrace Yah with prayer. Let that be our incense. Let's lift up our hands as an evening sacrifice. I was convicted. I was like, Yah, I want to know what my prayer is and what does it mean? He says it's incense to me. That's what your prayer is. You want to draw near to me? You don't have to go out and get a censer and throw some incense on it and walk around like a priest. All you need to do is turn around and come to me and pray to me and embrace me and let me embrace you. And you tell me what's going on. And you ask me for direction and you ask me for guidance. That's what you do. But let's be reminded that the people of Israel, that an ordinary person who's not descended from Aaron is not to approach and burn incense before Yahweh. If he wants to avoid the fate of Korach and his group, as Yahweh has said to him through Moshe. Just understand that if someone's not descended from Aaron, they are not to approach Yahweh in any sense of burning no incense toward Yah. Period. And I'm just giving the heads up as your Akika, as your brother, to tell you, don't be foolish. Do not be foolish. In conclusion, which is Kamishi. And forgive me, I've been going so fast, and you got to forgive your teacher, your Aki, your brother, because what is shown is first, Shani is second, Shalishi is third, Ravi'i is fourth, and Kamishi is fifth. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want you to be able to write that down. If you are taking your notes, write it down for yourselves. This is first, this is second, this is third, this is fourth, and this is fifth. Okay. And then Shishi is 6. And then the 7th is Shavi'i. Okay. That's the 7th, which we call Shabbat. And then you got Shemini, which is 8th, and Tishi, which is 9. It goes on and on and on and on. Okay. But if you notice, I put this in these are ordinal numbers, by the way. Ordinal means the order. That's why they're called ordinal. Okay. I forgot how you spell that, ordinal. They're ordinal numbers. They're the order of the numbers. They're order, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Okay. And then you got the other ones called cardinal. Cardinal numbers, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So Rishon is 1, the first. Echad is 1. I should put that in a different color, forgive me. Echad is 1. Shane is 2. And then Shalosh is 3. See, so you got Shalishi, you got Shani, you got Rishon, Ravi'i, okay? So on both sides, which I'm going to do a class on when we get in our Hebrew, and teach you the difference between cardinal and ordinal numbers. All right, so just a little plug there on that. So I wanted to let you know what these things mean before I kept going on. I was just so into the teaching that I forgot to tell you what each one of these words meant. For me, they mean something, and for you, you're like, what is this? What are you talking about, Ravi'i? That's 4th, okay? So the 5th part is what you and I are at right now, which has to do with our final finger. Which is part of our hand, right? And this is why sometimes they call the Torah the Kamash, because the Kamash has to do with 5, okay? Right? And 5 means the 5 what? 5 books of Moshe, okay? Which has to do with the hand, because you have what? 5 fingers. You understand? So all that's connected. So this final part today of Kamishi is this. It's about a decision. Yah has brought us through this Torah portion and has walked us along the road of in the wilderness to tell us that there among the people were those who we found out who were holy and those who weren't. One who was holy and the other ones who weren't. We also found, and of course, that kadosh means to be anointed, by the way. I forgot to talk about that. But our decision is whether or not you and I are going to be righteous or we're going to be wicked. So I want to take these few moments to talk about that, okay? And what righteousness is and what wickedness is and how do you define it, you know, Hebraically, and what should we do? Because that's ultimately the decision. Because Yah is always looking for us to make a decision. Because there's only two types of people in this world. There's only the righteous and there's the wicked. There is no in between. Okay, that's why there's only two of these here. You can't be righteous and wicked, and you can't be wicked with some bit of righteousness. Yah has declared to us that anybody who's committed any wickedness, even though they did a whole bunch of righteousness, their righteousness won't be able to save them from Yah's judgment. I'm laughing because it means that a decision is something that, you know, you and I really don't understand, but I'm going to tell you what it's really called. A decision is really an incision. An incision is to make a real sharp cut with a knife. Okay. So this in particular line right here will be your knife today. You have to make an incision. You have to make a cut to find out whether or not you are righteous, and if you want to subscribe to righteousness, or whether or not you want to be wicked, or if you're going to remain wicked. This depends. Okay. So here we go. So the word righteous has to do with this idea of being called a Zadik. Okay. Zadik. Okay. So a Zadik is someone who is called righteous. Okay. Righteousness is the English term that has to do with, you know, is abstract. Okay. But these letters right here, the Zadik is this. It comes from the word Zad. And Zad means to pursue. Okay. It means to hunt. It means to chase. Okay. That's what it means. It means to be a hunter. It means to chase. It means to ambush. Okay. And what ambushing and all that has to do with is, it's a good thing, is to be one who has decided that they want to use some type of strategy, because when you're going to do any kind of ambush, or you're hunting, or you're chasing after something, you have to use what they call strategy. So being righteous and being a Zadik is one who has to use strategy, and one who has to be pursuant, and be one who has to put forth some effort. Okay. That's what you have to do. Otherwise you won't catch anything. You go on a hunt and you come back with nothing, is because you lack, you know, the ability to hunt. You're not hunting well, right? So Yah's asking you and I to hunt, to chase, and to put forth effort after what he says. So I've listed just 5 things that you could put on your 5 fingers. The first one I want you to know is about Shema. Shema means to hear, to listen, and to obey. You can find that in Deuteronomy chapter number 6, verse 4. That's first and foremost. I need you to hear what I'm saying. Okay. That's what a Zadik is someone who listens, someone who's constantly hearing, constantly hunting, constantly searching, and always looking for a way to obey. Okay. Second part, if you notice, I kind of made this a little bit lighter. It looks a little different than all these other ones. Okay. This one's a little different. And the reason why it is because I wanted us to focus and not to forget about shuv. Okay. S-H-U-V. S-H-U-V means to turn. It means to return, or to turn from someone or something. That's what Yah talks what he wants us to do. So I want you to turn from the people that are not following what I said. The things that I want you to turn away from the culture that you are in. And once you turn from there, okay, I want you to return, come back this way. You understand? I need you to return back to where you came from. This word of shuv is also known as being to repent. Okay. And repent means to turn. That's all it means. And what it is, usually it's also connected with that from a person returning or turning from their captivity. And so your captivity is where you and I are at among someone and something. And Yah's saying once a captive has been set free, what they do is they put their clothes on and then they return back to their home. Okay. So Yah's letting us know the only way you're going to return back to your home, which is the land of Israel, which is the promised land I promised to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, you must shuv. And you must shema. You have to shema and you have to shuv. You have to take the captivity role. You're going to have to let it go. Okay. So in your captivity, they told you that you could cut all your hair off and you don't have to wear a beard. You want to be clean cut because you want to fit in. Yeah, I was saying that's not who you are. You can't do that. You got to return away from your captivity, which includes what you eat and what you look at and what you see. That's part of it. Okay. Next is Yahweh. Yahweh is huge. That's in Deuteronomy chapter number 10, verse number 12, which says that one of the things that Yah asks of us is to fear him. Okay. Fear is called Yahweh. The word Torah has the same root as Yahweh. The same root that has the Torah has to do with rain. The same root that has to do with rain has to do with direction. The same thing that has to do with direction has to do with instruction. The same root that has to do with instruction has to do with pointing in a direction. So instruction is to point into a direction. So this is what the purpose of the Torah is. This is the purpose of fearing Yahweh. If you fear Yahweh, you will study the Torah, okay? The Torah will become rain unto you. It will water your soil, okay? It also, the rain and the Torah will be getting to certain directions you need in your life because there's areas in your life, in your mind, which is your wilderness, that needs to fall. Well, what also falls? Well, the manna fell in the wilderness to us. Well, that's the Torah. Yah says, I don't feed you just by bread alone, but every word that comes out of my mouth. Yah is feeding us in order to instruct us, in order to point us in the direction he wants us to go. So your ray is really huge. Okay. So once you find out that you got to return from your captivity, one of the first things that Yah wants to do is to get you on this idea of Yahweh. And Yahweh is to literally fear Yahweh. Okay. It's the beginning of wisdom and knowledge. So, and then of course we have Asah, one of my favorites. It wasn't at first, but it is. Asah is just basically do. They use it as, keep, or, sometimes, observe. It means do. So when Yah talks about, you shall keep the commandments or keep the Shabbat, observe the Shabbat, meaning do it. And how do you do it? You do it with all your heart. You do it with all your effort. You do it with all your energy. You do it the way that he's asked you to do it. This is something that you must do. So in order to be Zadik, you have to have these elements. You have to Shema, you have to Shuv, you have to Yahweh, you have to Asah, you have to do. There's things that have to be, to do means to be done. There's things that have to be done. Okay. That's what it is. And then finally, one other little part that I wrote down here is called halak. And within halak, ha, and then lak. Ha means the in my Hebrew class, and lak means walk. The lamed right here is the staff. And the kaf is the palm. Okay. So you got the palm and the staff, and then you're going to walk. That's where you get lak from, L-A-K. Walk, like Yah told our father to lech lekah, to walk with me. That's what he asked our father Abraham did, and he did do that. And so walking for us then also has this idea of life. And life for us is the lifestyle. So being a Hebrew Israelite is a lifestyle. And life means the manner in our character and our conduct, the manner of conduct and our character, in the manner in which you live your life. This is all a part bound of being Zadik. Zadik, okay? So those are the instructions that you have. If you notice, I see all the Davarim. I use Davarim on purpose. I could have gone other places, but what's important in each one of these places, you're going to find the fear of Yahweh. You're going to find the walking. So, and also halak also means to follow, right? because you're following after Yahweh. You're walking the path of Yahweh. Okay. And that's what the Torah does. So the Torah keeps you on the path, right? So you're walking. Davarim, if you don't know, and you say, well, what is Davarim? Okay. Davar means words or word. Davarim, the ayin right here, it means words. That's the im. Okay. So these are the words. The Davarim of Yahweh is the words of Yahweh. So we turn. Okay, so here, look what Yah has shown us. So he just pointed out to me. My goodness, it's amazing. I didn't see it till just now. Yahweh wants us to listen to his words and obey. Yahweh wants us to return to his words. Yahweh wants us to fear. And it means study and learn his words. Yahweh wants us to do his words, and Yahweh wants to follow his words. That's why they're all in Davarim, and he just showed it to us. I didn't see it when I put it together, but now I see the guys why it's listed the way it is, so he can bring it out. And I love him for this because I didn't even see it till just now. So listen and obey, return to his words, fear his words, do his words, and walk and follow in his paths, in his words, because his words are his paths. Okay. That's what it is. That's what being Tzaddik is. Okay. And that's what you and I will be if we would follow what he says. Right. And listen what happens. Then those who feared Yahweh spoke together, and Yahweh listened. He shema, and he heard. A record book, a Sefer Zikaron, which is a written book of a record, was written in his presence. And for those who feared Yareh Yahweh and have respect, Yareh for Yahweh, his Shemo, his name, they will be mine, says Yahweh Zavaot. And on the day when I compose my own special treasure, I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. Okay. Then once again, you will see the difference between the righteous and the wicked, because Yah's going to make a difference between the righteous and the wicked, between the person who serves Elohim and the one who doesn't serve him. So the ones who serve him are the righteous. The ones who don't serve him are the wicked. That's why there's a difference. And Yah's going to make, and he's going to authenticate. He's going to prove who's the righteous, and he's going to prove who the wicked is. But you and I can prove by us fearing Yahweh and doing what he says and listening to him and returning to him. And hopefully that makes sense to all of us. And I'm pretty sure it does. The other incision that you need to understand is this Rasha. Rasha is the word from, we got our word that we had earlier today, which is called the Rashaim. Okay, the Rashaim are the im, according is the plural of evil and wickedness. Okay, the Rasha is wicked. That's what wicked is. It's wicked. And a wicked person, and according to Yahweh says, is a criminal. A criminal is someone who has broken Yahweh's laws. They have decided that they're not going to do what Yahweh says. They're not going to listen to what he says. They don't care what he said. They don't care who he appointed. And they're the people who go against what Moshe was told by Yahweh. Yahweh told Moshe that he appointed only one man and his family to be the Kohanim, and that's Aharon. Any individual on the face of this earth today, and I'll proclaim to you live on YouTube, Facebook, wherever else I need to go, to tell you anyone who calls themselves a Kohanim and cannot prove it, and they cannot authenticate, is wicked, because they're going against what Yahweh said. Are they Leviim and Kohanim out there? Yes, there are. But are they recognized? No, they're not. Is there a descendant of David? Yes, there is. Has it been recognized? No. So if you and I go ahead and start giving these people credit, and the Kohanim are responsible for leading Israel in a direction, you could be listening to a person who doesn't follow the Torah, who hasn't been authenticated by Yah, hasn't been verified or validated. And then that's the reason why our people are going in the way that they're going. Yah was whole objective is for us to verify who people are. And so you and I will know who he is. Okay. So the Rashaim or the Rasha is someone who's arrogant, like Dathan and Aviram and Korach, and like the other people who have decided that they not want to do what Yahweh says. The ones who consider themselves more important than what they are. The ones who've decided that I'm going to elevate above what Yahweh has said. That's the arrogant. They esteem themselves greater than what they truly are. They've taken a position of self-importance. That's wicked. And this cannot be inside of the community. This is the reason why Yahweh rooted these people out of the community. A wicked person is a person who's oppressive. We didn't understand that, well, why would you say a wicked person is oppressive? Well, this is the behavior. How does Dathan and Aviram and Korach and all of them are oppressive? How could you say they just want to take over the priesthood? Well, they wanted to go back to the land of Mizraim. There, they had no power whatsoever except for over Yahweh's people. So back in Egypt, Reuven's family was in charge. Shimon's family was part of them too, because they were the oldest, remember? And then, of course, you have the Leviim. Levi was there as well. These were the three families that were in Mizraim operating as the leaders of the people. So Dathan and Abiram was from this family. So they were like, we got first place, but they wanted to go back to Egypt. If they went back to Egypt, they wouldn't have a land. And they were willing to sacrifice doing what Yah says to go back to a land of oppression. Because at least what they could have done is to be able to oppress the people when they got back. As long as we're your leaders, we don't care about you being oppression. Just like our leaders, so-called leaders today, your Jesse Jacksons, your Al Sharptons, and the rest of these clowns. They're out there that claim to be our leaders, right? And they're over our people, hear me. And as long as they have us underneath, they're under the thumb of everyone else, they're fine. They're getting fat and they're living good lives. But meanwhile, the people are being oppressed. Those people were going to be dealt with. You understand? So Yah's telling, and they're wicked as hell. And I'll say it. Okay. So the bottom line is that oppressiveness is from a person who comes from a place of wickedness and arrogance. Right. So, and their goal and an objective is to continue to have us oppressed. That's why we can't trust these people. And this is the reason why you should not allow a person to claim that they're going to be a leader among you that Yah has not authorized. Because if Yah didn't authorize that individual, then they're going to oppress you. They're going to tell you owe them tithes. They're going to squeeze every dollar out of you. And they're going to squeeze you for your time and your energy and your resources. That's how they're going to do it. The wicked person is a prideful person. Pride here is the idea of self-exaltation. They will exalt themselves over everybody else. They will not take the position of being humble and saying, hey, we're all in this together. And what can we operate? Yes, as Okoti said in her teaching, in her presentation, there are leaders. Everyone can't be a leader. Everyone can't be an elder because they're not. They haven't hit that time. Everyone can't be, in charge of this or in charge of that. Everyone should not be the teacher. But it doesn't mean that you don't have a stake in the game. It means that we all work together for each other's good. But as long as you got individuals among you that exalt themselves, that's wickedness and that's misery and it's prideful and it's hateful. Okay. Also, too, those who are presumptuous. The presumption is that you could go outside of the limitations and the bounds that has been set by Yahweh. The reason why Dathan, Aviram, and Korach and the rest of these people went outside of the boundaries that Yah had set is because they were an arrogant people and they were presumptuous. They presumed upon Yahweh that he didn't mean what he said, like the people today. You call yourselves a Kohen, but yet you're not serving Yahweh in the capacity of a Kohen. You go around and you tell people that you are the king of Israel, and yet Israel's not, joined together. You inaugurate someone as a king of Israel, and yet you're subjugated under the authority of another nation, and our people haven't been gathered. So you're making a lie out of what Yah had claimed for Israel. When Israel comes back together, Yah will appoint our king. He will appoint our leaders. He will put the people that he wants to put in place. But you and I should not go beyond those limits. Let's not subscribe to what you would call rasha, wickedness. These types of behaviors are very repulsive. And as you know, repulsive means to be disgusting. Wicked people tend to have these types of behaviors. They're very repulsive. They're repulsive to Yah, and they're repulsive to community. They're repulsive to family, and they have no place inside of our community. So I'm hoping that you and I will subscribe to being righteous rather than to be wicked. How blessed are those who reject the advice of the wicked, who don't stand on the way of sinners or sit where the scoffers sit. They delight in Yahweh's Torah, and on his Torah they meditate day and night. They are like trees planted by streams. They bear their fruit in season. Their leaves never wither. Everything they do succeeds. Not so the wicked, who are like the chaff driven by the wind. For this reason, the wicked won't stand up to the judgment, nor will sinners at the gathering of the righteous. But Yahweh watches over the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. I say to you, you and I have to make a decision. You and I are going to have to authenticate. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go through the process, determining whether someone or something is in fact who or what it says it is. Yahweh is our Elohim, and it has been authenticated. You and I are in exile, and we're currently under a curse. We're currently without a land. We're currently without a temple. We're currently without a priesthood. We're currently without a king. We're currently without being established and being glorified as the chief of all nations. That has been authenticated. We have also authenticated the only family that Yahweh chose to determine that, in fact, they are the one that Yah's spoken about and chose, and Bakar is Aharon and his family. We've authenticated and determined that anybody who puts their hands to the work of the inheritance or the duties and responsibilities of the Kohanim of that family is to be put to death, according to Yahweh's word. Yah has authenticated who he has chosen, Bakar, and who Yahweh has called. Yah has authenticated. You and I need to authenticate. And if we authenticate, our authentication process cannot be determined on how you and I feel. It has to be determined about what did Yahweh say. That's how we're going to authenticate. That's your lesson for today. Questions, contributions? Hallelujah. Azanya.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for the Shabbat lesson. I have one comment and one question, Akika. The first, I think I'll start out with the comment, and that's when you were going through what is, like yada, when you were going through the yada and, what does Yah desire? What does, to know, and That was really like a beautiful breakdown that you did. And it just reminded me what Abraham went through in Genesis 12, 1-2, where the Most High said, get out of your country, from your family and from your father's house. Because I feel like so many of us are going through that again, like the Most High is really separating. When I speak to people that are doing this walk, you know, the Most High is really, really separating what he is considering to be the remnant, I believe. You know, none of us really know if we're going to make it. We're all still praying. But but I believe that he is starting that process of calling us, and that process is separating us from that evil that refuses to turn to him, that's very close up on us.
Yeah.
And yes. So, and the second question I had happened in our Torah portion, and that is number 17:8, where it is written, where it says, now it came to pass that on the next day that Moshe went into the tabernacle of the witness, and behold, the rod of Aharon of the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds, and had produced blossoms and yielded ripe almonds. And so I read that, and I just happened to come across something in the testimony in the first chapter of Jeremiah, verses 11 or 12. And you've been talking so much about lineage and about him choosing certain houses. And it says, moreover, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Yirmiyahu, what do you see? And I said, I see a branch of an almond tree. Yeah. And Yohewah said to me, you have seen well, for I am ready to perform my word. Yes. So I'm wondering, is Yirmiyahu, is he a descendant of Aharon? Is that him saying, I've given my word to, because Yirmiyahu was a priest, I've given my word to this line? Is that what that means, you think?
Well, I understand it as this. I see it as, because he was talking about prophecy, right? Is prophetic.
Right.
So
yes,
I didn't cover that today, right? When you talk about because the rod is huge, because like Condra said, this is really intense. It's like, it's very substantial. So
right.
The rod, when he put it, the rod represents that family, right?
Okay.
And
yes.
So remember, he talked about that branch. That's that
right.
branch. That's that mate, that rod. But what
right.
I'm talking about is that the blossoming, because the word for blossom is zitzit. That's what zitzit is zol.
Okay.
And zitzos or zitzit, which is which we're supposed to wear, represents the development and the growth. So you'll see the flowers, right?
Okay.
But when you see the flowers, you should know that you got to watch for the almond.
Okay.
That's what shakade is, almond, and shakade means to be watchful.
Okay.
That's what it means. So in terms of what he was a priest, he's from that family.
Okay.
So what we know is that Yah was telling him that I want my people to be watchful, right?
Okay.
And to blossom, because the blossom is happening. So I didn't get to talk about it today, but I guess I'm talking about it now. When we wear our tzitzits, they represent blossom, almond blossoms, and it means to be fruitful. But it also means for us to be watchful. And the watchfulness is for us to watch our eyes. He said, lest you turn to the things that draw your eyes away from me, right?
Okay.
But for us, in terms of being watchful, to shakade is to be watchful for the time in which is to come. So Yah is telling us to be watchful. Even through our Torah portion, he's letting us know that when I am going to bring back this family, right? You guys will never be set up without a king and without a priesthood. You will never be set up without that. Remember, we saw in my lesson that it said, and I believe that's in Jeremiah chapter number 33. He says these two families, people have said these two families I've rejected. Why? Like they don't exist no more. Because if they don't exist, then you really can't say that you're a nation. Not for him, it can't be his nation. We're called his people, but we're not a nation. We're not unified. But we can only be unified underneath the priesthood and the kingship that Yah has determined to set up. So being watchful is what I got from it, you know,
Okay.
from the arcade, and that it is about to blossom.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
I look at it too like this: for us to start wearing our tzitzis, you know,
Yes.
you got to know, like, why are you wearing your tzitzis? I'm being watchful.
Yeah.
And why are you being watchful? Because Yah's waking us up. We're starting to flower. We're starting to blossom. We haven't seen the almonds yet. We haven't seen them yet. We all
No.
see the flowers. That's all we get to see right now. But when that almond, when the fruit of that comes out, then that's why I believe when Aharon and his family is going to be able to take over the priesthood again, as we saw in Ezekiel chapter number 44. Because Yah does intend on doing that.
Okay. All right then. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a question, a comment
Yes.
first. First, I just wanted to make a comment on the excellent lesson and the presentation this morning that just got my mind just working. And one thing that my Koti said was that really stuck out to me was about in the comment about being in the medical field. And it mentioned something about though the heart may be still beating, if there's no brain activity, then we pull the plug. And I understand that completely. So my question was Korah's heart hardened by Yah? I just fail to understand how he could think that he could usurp Moses' authority. And I wondered if he knew what his end would have been if he would have repented. So to me, because to me it's like the Most High knew what was in his heart, and as she spoke about in the presentation about, you know, the brain activity, and it seemed like Korah was emotionally unattached to Yah. He was in rebellion, and it kind of reminded me of having no brain activity. So it's like,
Wow.
did Yah pull the plug on him?
Uh,
You know, will he pull the plug on us if, you know, I have family members that know what is right, but they don't want to do what is right. They'd rather, you know, serve their idol, even though they've been warned by the Most High from their word, their very words that, oh yeah, I know this is wrong, but this is what I'm going to do anyway. So does the Most High harden hearts like that?
yeah, he does. He hardened Pharaoh's heart. We have examples, but the question I would pose for all of us is, you got to ask yourself the question, why is this written? Why did Yah decide to tell us this story about this event? This is not the only events that took place out there, but it was something that Yah wanted us to know. He wants us to know about this individual, right? Because what he's saying is you can be connected and still yet be disconnected. You see?
Yes.
So we're connected here, right? But they're even among us in our community, not here on Zoom, but all of us together. There's people that are connected, but yet they're disconnected. And what makes us disconnected is the fact that you will change or go against. That's what his name meant, to rise, to kum. He rose up against what Yahweh has already said. That's what Yah's trying to show us, because they rose up. They rose up against Yah. Moshe asked the question, who does Aharon that you come against him? The pretext is we'll use the priesthood because we're connected anywhere. We're Levim. So they thought, well, we're Levim, so we got access. But they want to do it their way. And Yah's saying you could be connected, but yet still disconnected. You could be part of the group, but yet inside the group, there's weeds, there's wickedness. I went out to my yard the other day and I tried to pull some weed that were too hard for me. You know, I have my accident, so I'm not able to lift any, thing. And I tried to lift this weed out. It was too strong for me. My wife was like, hey, just stop, stop. I was like, man, I can't even lift this weed out of here. It took root real hard. So I'm unable to pull this root out of the ground, and I'm frustrated. And of course, I go through an emotional, release and cry because I can I had this surgery, so now I can't do certain things. Then I asked Yah, after I had my tears and I cried about not being able to do that, I asked the Most High, what do you want me to learn from this? And that's where we came up with this idea about the root system, about when something is very strong like that, right? Moshe and them was not able to pull them out. It was only Yah who was able. Moshe couldn't just say, let's go ahead and kill these people. He left everything in Yahweh's hands. There's people that are in our community that have a deep root into us that are wicked. And their whole intent is to turn people away from what Yahweh says. So did Yah harden him? Yah used him and the 250 and Dathan and Aviram and told us in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 11, remember what Dathan and Aviram did and what I did to them. Because Yahweh's intention is to do the same thing over again. Yeah. I'm going to uproot out of you the wicked men. They're among you. There's groups of people that are among Yah's people that he says, I'm going to tear them out of Israel. Absolutely. Before you go back to the land. I'm going to separate them. I'm going to havdil them. And guess what I'm going to do to them? I may open up the earth and let them fall in. I will kill them with fire. That's their fate. That's what they're getting. Yes, Gil.
Yeah, couple of points. One of the things that I liked was how you brought forth the fact that he was kind of like pinholed from his name or his ancestors' names.
Yes.
His ancestors, kind of named him knowing that him or his descendants was going to do exactly what they did.
Yes.
And the other point that I want to make is, in my journey, our people are. It's amazing to me sometimes that he chose us instead of somebody else. It's amazing to me to read in the Torah how our people continue to react to witnessing miracles and doing the things that they do, the stiff neck and the hard head. It tends to amaze me. Within my own family, I have people that say things like, I know you're right, but it's always a but. I'm comfortable here. It's easier for me. I don't want to spend the time to read. But that was my 2 points I wanted to make.
Praise Yah.
Hallelujah.
Praise Yah. Thank you for that, Gil. And you're right. We are our ancestors. So, and we have to make a decision. Koti, the honorable. Yes.
Yeah, and just going back to her question, that gave me the two definitions of his name. It was baldness and it was also frost and coldness. And some people's destiny, although it sounds horrible, is the freedom to operate in their wickedness to be used as an example. So it could be just that simple.
Wow. I just said that on my last teaching. You weren't even on our class. I said the same thing. I think I remember saying that. I said, I think I did say that. I said, someone asked me, I said, Yah will allow us to, if we're evil and we're wicked, in order for him to get glory, he'll allow you to continue to do that like he did with Pharaoh. He's not here to make us not do or be what we want to be. If you want to be that, if you want to exist as that, then that's what you're going to exist as. And he's not going to stop you. He's not going to stop you. So what we understand is that righteousness is a choice. It's a decision. You understand? You choose to shuv, shema, it's up to you. And that's the beauty of this. That's why it's not a religion. It's not, hey, I signed up, or you could be Israel and you could still not decide that you're going to lo shuv. I'm not going to turn. I'm going to still be who I want. There's our Koti Rekwa. Go ahead, Kwa.
Praise Yah. Hallelujah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think as we come out and from under the spell in the craft, we are beginning to realize that these are choices that our people and our relatives are making. You know,
Mhm.
especially when we bring them the truth and we can actually see them make the choice. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Oh, I'm not ready for this. You
Right.
know, I mean, how many of us have heard that? I mean, and it hurts us to know that, hey, you know, you're making a choice against the Elohim that created the heavens and the earth that happens to be our Elohim. So, you know, it's the reality that number one, that Yahweh exists and that we have a responsibility for our conduct and our actions. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah. Man, when you just said that, you know what you made me thought about? I thought about, you know, why is Yah telling us this like right now? Why is he telling us this? Just tell, I mean, is he preparing us for when he opens up the earth and swallows these people? Or are we going to turn like the other people say, you killed Yahweh's people? Is that what they're going to say about you and I? He's getting us prepared. He's letting us know people make choices all the time. You know? Azania Koti.
Something just happened when I was sitting here. I just got a message in from someone, and I just want to say something. It's so important to stay humble in this walk. I learned that from my husband, who I think is one of the more humble people on the face of the earth. I can tell you, I mean, after many years of marriage to this man, I can count the times I've heard him raise his voice, but it's just so important to stay humble because so many of our people think they know everything.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that it makes it so easy for the Most High to make Jerusalem a cup of trembling.
Yeah.
And for us not to have any unity, especially in the Torah community, because everybody thinks that they know everything and we can so unequivocally state facts when we really just need to spend time learning from one another and humbling our spirits in order to do so. And part of learning is learning to be wrong, you know,
Yeah.
and be all right with it, you know, and to move on with it. And so I think that was part of the problem with, well, you know, jealousy happened out there in the wilderness. But if you look at the Levitical order and the burning of the incense, it has been a stumbling block for so many of our people throughout the centuries. They wanted to do what the sons of Aharon were only ordained to do. And so it's just, I don't know, I guess humility is one of the greatest things it is for our people to learn. But it was the reason why the Most High only spoke face to face to Moshe, because he was the most humble man on the face of the earth.
Think if he spoke to us face to face or mouth to mouth, he'd kill us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there you go. That's what it's about, man. It's like, you're right, Okoti. And that's one of the things that I'm working on is like, even though I learned the language and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, you know what? I don't know everything. I get terrified when I have to teach because often I don't know what I'm going to teach about. I don't. Because if you try to come up and say, okay, I'm going to say this, or I think I should say this, or I think that kind of thing, then you're kind of working out of your own little brain and you're not speaking from a place of absolute knowledge. Like I know what I'm saying, like who I am and what it means to me. So when I say absolute knowledge, I'm not saying that I can't make any error or, you know, I'm saying from my perspective and my experience with the Creator, I'm speaking from what I know and what I know. And I believe what I know to be absolute for me, right? Which is, what did the Creator say? We can examine what did he say. Forget about what I'm talking about. What did he say? That's the absoluteness. That's the infinitive, absolute, or, a grammatical term, that's where it's at. So that's been the basis and the foundation of where I try to work from, is to say, what did the Creator say? And people often get mad at me when I say, well, what did he say? Well, yeah, brother, but this is what, no, what did he say? What did he say? See? And then we'll look at it and they're like, okay, all right. So that's where it's at. Anyway, any other contributions before I let you guys go? Without any other contributions or whatever, I like to say, praise be to the mighty Yah. Hallelujah. Yahweh, we thank you for your time today. We thank you for being in your presence and being taught about who you are. Yahweh, we thank you for your Torah. We thank you for the presentation. We thank you for our Kototh, our sisters, and our Akim brother, our brothers, Yahweh. And we thank you for us coming together and making the connection. Yahweh, we ask that we would authenticate what you have said. We ask that we would prove and confirm our righteousness. We can do that. And it's not prescribed by any man or anything. It has to come from within. So let us make that decision, Yahweh, to listen to you and to follow you and to walk in your ways and to return, Yahweh, to your ways and to fear you and to do what you have said. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.